To show off for his crush, my brother scrambled to grab the reduction system, leaving me with the other one. But a few days later, everything changed. An apocalyptic flood hit, trapping everyone on the top floors of buildings where resources became the only thing that mattered. With my 1,000-fold increase system, I could turn a single cracker into a month's worth of food by managing it carefully. I barely survived the apocalypse, only for my heartless brother to tie me up and throw me off the roof. "You're a selfish bastard," he screamed. "You watched everyone starve without lifting a finger. Are you even human? Today I'm avenging everyone. I'm avenging my beloved Xiaoling." Then, I opened my eyes again and realized I was back at the moment of choosing the systems. This time, my pathetic brother rushed forward to snatch the 1,000-fold increase system first. That's when I knew he had been reborn too. I just smiled as the prompt appeared. "Choose your system." "I choose the 1,000-fold increase system," my brother shouted impatiently. "Binding successful. Can increase any object 1,000 times. Cannot be used repeatedly on the same object. Duration, 87,600 hours. He chuckled. "Brother, you're not going to fight me for it, are you?" I looked at his smug, punchable face and said, "Of course not. You're my spoiled little brother. I'll take the reduction system." He looked relieved, thinking I hadn't been reborn like him. Suddenly, an apple on the table grew massive, crushing the coffee table beneath it as my brother jumped for joy. He turned to me with a mocking grin. "Hey, that reduction system of yours seems pretty useless, doesn't it?" "Yeah, not much use," I said, touching the wrecked table and watching it vanish instantly. "Maybe just for a magic trick." "Ha ha, your reduction system is pathetic. Good for cleaning, I guess. Hey, give me some cash. I'm going out to have some fun." As soon as he left, I locked the door behind him. There were only 3 days left until the apocalypse. Time was running out. Step 1. Gather as much capital as possible. I hit every online loan app and scraped together $500,000 in a single month. Before leaving, I found my brother's ID and microwaved it to fry the chip. By nightfall, I returned with supplies and hid them in the ventilation duct. I had already forced the living room vent open to create a secret stash. To prep for the end, I ordered tempered glass and used the ventilation shaft to build a miniature survival base right inside the wall. I installed a small wind generator and full-spectrum light strips. Once that was done, I started a massive online shopping spree. That night, I heard voices across the hall. It was my brother and Xiaoling. "Did you really give me this apartment?" she asked. "Of course, it's all yours. Living with my parents downstairs was so cramped. Thank you." "It's not just about the space," he said. "In the future, you'll thank me even more." A chill ran down my spine. He knows the floor below is going to flood. But where did he get the money? I fried his ID myself. He couldn't have gotten a loan. I confronted him immediately. "Where is the deed to the house?" I looked at Xiaoling. "You bought a house?" My brother worked himself to the bone for this. That down payment didn't fall from the sky. It came from our family's old home. I'm entitled to a share too. "Oh please, why does everything have to be about you?" "Wow, you've really grown up." "Of course I have. I graduated college. I'm way smarter than you." He laughed, turned around, and slammed his bedroom door shut. "We're step-siblings with no blood relation. If I hadn't promised my stepmother in my past life, why would I have ever tolerated this disgusting dead weight for 10 years? Fine, we'll see who survives this apocalypse." I went back to my room and kept ordering supplies. The next morning, I left 5,000 yuan on the sofa just to keep him out of the house and out of my way. Heading downstairs, I ran into Xiaoling's family. "People who buy top-floor units are idiots," they sneered. "When they get old and can't move, they'll know what real suffering is." "Exactly, and if they want an elevator, they better pay us $1 million in compensation or it's not happening." "$1 million? No way, it has to be $10 million. Her mother slapped the bratty kid playfully. I couldn't help but smirk with pure disdain. Today, I was out to buy seeds and tools. I also picked up high-end surveillance cameras. When I got back, my brother was gone. Perfect. I had all the time I needed to install the security system. Then, I used my ability to shrink the bulkier items and tuck them into my miniature base. On my second trip, I brought back a swarm of chickens, ducks, and pigs, all shrunk 1,000 times over. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. My brother was back, and the influencer Xiaoling was with him. "This is my brother, Wan Ti. And brother, this is Xiaoling. She was the prettiest girl in our old town." I knew exactly who she was. "Wang Zhe, I'm going to go rest now," Xiaoling said, heading to the apartment across the hall. My brother looked at me with a greedy glint in his eye. "Brother, can you give me more money? Aren't I your favorite little brother?" "Don't come back unless it's important," I said, and transferred the funds. "Thanks. I'll take this as a down payment for my future enlarging services," he added. Wang Zhe flopped onto the sofa and grabbed an apple from the table. He took a big bite, then suddenly spotted a bag of seeds I had left out. "Wait, seriously? Hey, brother. Why are you keeping this junk? The sky has been so cloudy and dark lately. We both got these systems out of nowhere, and honestly, I'm worried. I don't know what's coming, so I saved some seeds just in case." He burst out laughing. "Brother, you're such an idiot. I have the amplification system. What the hell is this garbage even good for?" He tossed the seeds into the trash with total disgust. In a rain apocalypse, where would the sun even come from to grow crops? When I woke up the next day, the rain was coming down even harder. I saw my brother helping Xiaoling move her things. What a pathetic bootlicker. "Why all this cheap stuff? It's useless," Xiaoling snapped, blocking his path. But he didn't want to reveal the truth yet. He probably wanted to surprise her once the apocalypse actually hit. Brother, can I put these things inside for now? He asked, and I told him to do whatever he wanted. Where are you going? It's pouring out there, he said, and I told him I was heading to the office. He glanced at Xiaoling standing nearby and swallowed his words, knowing he wouldn't ask me to stay. I popped my collar and walked out of there as fast as I could. The office lobby was already overflowing with all the supplies I had ordered. Hey man, where have you been? The delivery guy asked. Why'd you buy so much stuff? Did you win the lottery and go on a revenge spree? It's too much for one person to move. Why don't you call some friends to help you? I just shook my head and told him it wasn't necessary. I had paid a $5,000 insurance fee for my most expensive item, so there were no issues. The delivery man pulled the items out and I opened the main package. Inside was a miniature villa that had cost me $200,000. These are rich people toys, man. You should have bought a Xiaomi car instead, he joked. I laughed, thinking I'd rather not end up stranded on the side of the road. I handed him an expensive cigarette as a tip. Once I confirmed everything was there, I reached out my hand toward the pile. While the delivery guy turned away to light his cigarette, the mountain of supplies vanished into thin air. He rubbed his eyes, completely losing his mind. Wait, what the hell? You saw that, right? I told him I didn't see a thing. I just held the small package with the miniature villa in my hand. The delivery guy collapsed right onto his backside. I'm not joking, he stammered. I saw it a second ago, and then it just vanished. I just shrugged and asked him if he thought the place was haunted. The truth was, this company was drowning in resentment after years of failing real estate sales. I patted his shoulder, headed upstairs, and started downloading movies the second I sat down. I needed to fill up hundreds of drives, hundreds of terabytes, while my desk piled up with takeout containers. I was enjoying the peace until Mrs. Lee from the next desk over approached me. Hey, Wong, haven't seen you all weekend. Did you hit the jackpot or something? I told her the good times might not last long, just as Manager Pan walked in. What are you all looking at? Did you sell a house today? Get back to work. When he passed my desk and saw me slacking off right in his face, he nearly exploded. Wong Tao, you're really ignoring me now, aren't you? He screamed, so I shut him up with a slap. I sent him spinning, and he clutched his face in total shock. He looked at me with a trembling lip and asked, You actually dared to hit me? So what if I did? What are you going to do? Fire me. I shot back. Manager Pan looked like his brain had short-circuited. Wait, that's supposed to be my line, he muttered, backing away from my sudden confidence. I'll keep the secret of what happened that night. I put a finger to my lips, and Manager Pan's face turned from bright red to a sickly green. Don't talk nonsense, he stammered. As for you hitting me, we'll settle that account later. He scurried off, and Mrs. Lee leaned in to ask what happened in his office and with whom. I just shrugged and told her I had no clue. Downloading movies was the only thing that mattered now. In the apocalypse, you can't survive without some food for the soul. The office internet was fast, so I finished the drive and tucked it into my briefcase. Just as I finished, a delicious scent drifted over. It was the big boss, Mrs. Hua. She looked at me and said, anyone who didn't know better would think you're the boss here. I told you to treat the office like home, not to act like you own the place. I ignored her mockery, scribbled my address and number on a paper, and slapped it onto her chest. What do you think you're doing? She gasped. I told her, that's my address, my number, and a simple map. If you don't make it through what's coming, remember to find me. I actually like you. I walked away with total calm, leaving her stunned behind me. I stopped in my tracks, ripped off my company ID, and tossed it in the trash. I turned back and pointed at her. Don't call me Wong anymore. From now on, it's Mr. Wong. I gave her a thumbs up and got out of there before security could arrive. Magic? Is that all? Seriously? I gave a crooked smile, like I was giving advice to my past self. The rain was coming down harder now. It was time to head home. I needed massive amounts of supplies, because this rain might never stop. I opened my umbrella and stepped out into the downpour. Today's mission, clear out the local supermarket. Almost everything I ordered online had arrived, supplies for 10 years. The day the system's timer runs out is the day the apocalyptic rain stops. Things were starting to get very difficult and very exciting. Today was all about the food. In the city's biggest supermarket, everywhere I walked, things shrank and vanished. Everything fell directly into my storage space. I didn't plan on paying a single cent. As I walked out, the alarm started screaming. But the security guards couldn't find a thing on me. Standing outside the mall, I wondered how to spend my last 100,000. Then I saw a compound bow hanging. I walked in and asked, how much for that? The owner looked at me with annoyance and said, that's not a weapon, it's a work of art. A milestone in sporting history. It'll cost you exactly 100,000. I yawned and handed over 98 bucks, telling him to fill it up. The guy looked at me and asked, where's your car, pal? He offered to rent me a gas can for 25, but I told him I didn't need it. I just handed him my empty teacup and said, fill this. He stared at it and asked, in this? You want 5 pesos of gas in a cup? I nodded, and he started howling with laughter at the idea of a 5 peso fill-up. He kept laughing, asking me if I was actually serious. The man thought I was completely insane, doubling over as he laughed. On my way home, a Ferrari swerved into my lane, and the blonde driver rolled down his window to scare me. I didn't flinch. I just walked up and spat right in his face. The guy lost it and started climbing out of his car to get at me. Before he could even stand up straight, I gave him a proper greeting. I landed a kick right between his legs, leaving him groaning in the dirt. He collapsed in the rain, screaming in agony as I made his car vanish into my storage. Once I got back home, I took a moment to rest before the final step. It was time for the last preparations, so I pulled out the miniature mansion model. I took all my shrunk supplies, food, and furniture and stuffed them inside the model house. I looked around the apartment I'd lived in for 10 years, feeling the cold night air. I felt no regret as I sealed the model's entrance, leaving only a tiny hole and a string. I stared at the wall of rain outside the window and whispered, "See you in 10 minutes. I gripped the end of the string tightly. I gave the system a single command: shrink me 1,000 times over. The entire world expanded before my eyes as I hung suspended in the air. The door burst open. It was my brother, back sooner than I expected. I activated the traction cable and was yanked toward the model house at top speed. I zipped right past him as he entered, and he didn't even notice I was there. "Wang Tao, you bastard," he roared, kicking the sofa in a blind rage. He stopped suddenly, realizing the mountain of supplies in the living room was gone. Right then, the text I scheduled hit his phone. "Little brother, I'm taking the supplies. I'm boarding my flight now. Goodbye." Wang Zhe went ballistic, screaming that I must have been reborn too. "Fine," he yelled. "Let's see what that useless shrinking system does when you're begging me for help." What an idiot. I laughed quietly from my hiding spot right above his head. I sealed the entrance with a metal plate and flipped the power switch. The LED strips flickered to life, illuminating my new miniature world. I hopped into the stolen Ferrari. It had way more kick than a toy car. I drove to the mansion, hooked up the generator, and hopped into the hot tub. I ate my brother's food while watching the news reports about the unprecedented storm. I checked my surveillance monitors, ready to watch the apocalypse unfold like a movie. On the screen, my brother Wang Zhe went from pure rage to a manic, delusional laugh. "I have a system too," he screamed. "I can make things 1,000 times bigger. You'll run out of food eventually, big brother, and when you come crawling back, I'll let you rot." With a twisted smirk, he turned and pulled our neighbor, Xiao Ling, into the apartment. She looked at him like he was crazy, asking if he'd finally lost his mind with all this system talk. But she shut her mouth the second she saw the 100-pound apple sitting in the living room. Wang Zhe puffed out his chest. "This is the miracle I created." He took a single grape, enlarged it instantly, and the weight of it cracked the floor tiles. Xiao Ling gasped, clinging to his arm. "You're incredible. I'm so lucky I have you. With me around," he bragged, "you'll never have to worry about supplies again." She looked out the window. "If it keeps raining, the lower floors will flood. What about your parents?" "Forget them for now," he dismissed. "We need to gather every scrap of food in this building first. We'll amplify it all, resell it, and become the richest people on Earth." Xiao Ling giggled, stroking his ego. "You're so smart. No wonder you're a college man." Wang Zhe got lost in his own smug, idiotic grin, already imagining himself as a king. Watching the feed while I munched on watermelon, I couldn't help but like his stream. My poor, naive little brother. He had no idea he was already dead meat. The relentless rain turned the building into a lonely island, and for 3 months, Wang Zhe was its god. Until Xiao Ling and her brother, the brother-in-law, beat him into bloody submission. They turned him into a human factory, a slave to amplify their food until the very end. After they hung him upside down, he spent every day screaming for me to save him. I almost gave in several times, but then I remembered the moment he pushed me to my death. My heart hardened. The debt from my past life was officially settled. Now, he just had to accept the destiny he chose for himself. I told myself that and decided to ignore him completely, but the peace didn't last. Out of nowhere, a cockroach the size of an elephant appeared and scared the hell out of me. Downstairs, Wang Zhe was still hanging by his feet, screaming for help. He looked like he had heard my voice for a second, but a whip cracked instantly, and the brother-in-law ordered him back to work. "Finish this batch, and I'll let you down for 10 minutes. Move it." I ran back into the villa and grabbed the compound bow hanging on the wall. I never thought this toy would be useful, but that cockroach was incredibly tough. It took me 3 whole days of using traps and fire just to kill the damn thing. The price was losing half of my food, and it served as a brutal wake-up call. In this apocalypse, no place is ever truly safe. I decided to use metal mesh to seal every single ventilation duct in the house. It was a titanic job, but I survived 10 years much harder than this. I even set up a forge to start crafting weapons out of iron wire. Just as I finished forging and sat down to rest, I saw something on the monitor. Wang Zhe was finally rebelling, but the second Xiao Ling started crying, he folded again. The next day arrived. They tied him up and hung him upside down again as the building welcomed a new queen. To face the coming crisis, building a protective fence became my top priority. I split my time right down the middle. Half the day was for construction, and the other half was for training my body. At night, I spent hours on the computer. I studied how to forge weapons, specifically firearms. 3 more months passed, and the metal fence was nearly finished. I also built several greenhouses to grow my own grains and vegetables. When I finally checked the cameras, the situation in the building had completely flipped. Xiao Ling's parents met a horrific end, and she was turned into a slave. As for Wang Zhe, he was still nothing more than a pathetic resource generator. The rebels studied his system and left him with only one movable finger to touch food. I watched it all coldly. Just as I predicted, a controlled special human is the most miserable creature alive. Wang Zhe's eyes were dead, that look of pure stupidity finally gone. Too bad it was too late for him. A new order was established with a peculiar leader acting as king of the pyramid. Wang Zhe was at the very bottom, an untouchable with zero dignity. I remained a spectator in my villa until a swarm of killer ants crawled through the vents. To defend my home, I had to fight. It was a fight to the death against the ant legion that lasted over a minute. The ants were nearly wiped out, but I took a massive hit in the process. I spent the next 6 months obsessively reinforcing the ventilation ducts. A year passed, and Wang Zhe's eyes on the monitor looked as lifeless as rotting wood. Watching his daily misery was the only thing that kept me calm. Power in the building shifted again, this time falling into the hands of outsiders. After a brutal war, the victors established a new dynasty in the ruins. They used the food to form alliances and trade routes with other buildings. They weren't worried about a collapse. As long as the Dalit lived, they had infinite food. Wang Zhe was now a mindless beast of burden, and I was just a spectator in my own world. Everything was fine until an ancestral centipede smashed through my defenses. My weapons couldn't scratch it, so I hopped in my Ferrari and charged the monster. I finally got close enough to touch it, and the terrifying beast suddenly shrank. I didn't hesitate. I lifted my foot and splat. I crushed it like a bug, leaving nothing but a small stain on the floor. 2 years alone in this building, surviving by killing every invader that crawled in. Then, a private message popped up on my screen. "I'm coming to find you." It was President Hua. "Come whenever you want," I replied. Below me, a religious fanatic had turned my brother, Wang Zhe, into a literal god. I watched the god hanging upside down in his temple, feeling like a ghost in a high-tech cage. Things stayed that way until a group of drifters arrived in a submarine, including a long-haired beggar who smelled like death. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with another text. "Brother Wang, I've arrived." The silence was shattered, and a desperate urge to save him surged through me. I built a small plane out of scrap metal, but it crashed the moment I got close. I was right on top of him. All that time spent in isolation had made me practically immune to fear. I caught a fly and started taming it just to stay sane, knowing the outsiders wouldn't be allowed to stay long. Then a guard made a discovery. The stinking beggar was actually a beautiful woman. The guards lunged for her, shouting, "Quick, grab her." I didn't hesitate. I activated the system and pulled her toward me. I brought her into my sanctuary. I laid her on the sofa in my Garden of Eden and watched her wounds heal. I leaned in close and heard her whisper weakly, "I'm hungry, so hungry." I immediately brought her deeper into the house to get her something to eat. She grabbed the plate and started devouring everything like she hadn't eaten in years, so I told her to slow down. As I stroked her matted hair, her disguise accidentally slipped away. It revealed skin as white as milk, making me wonder what was actually happening here. I asked myself if she could even wait until she finished chewing before choking. She ate until she physically couldn't take another bite, finally passing out cold. Once she stopped eating, I rushed her to get ready. I led her to a bath, but her eyes had lost the spark they once had. She sat down restlessly, keeping as much distance from me as possible. I told her to make herself at home and asked if she had suffered much on the road. Those words seemed to strike a chord deep in her heart, and the tears began to flow. She leaned on my shoulder and cried until she was exhausted before finally speaking. She revealed she had been trapped in the company building for over 2 years. She had watched my meeting in the lobby through the monitors after everyone else left. Sensing something was wrong from my text, she dismissed the guards and locked the upper floors. She survived on office supplies until the power cut out, and she lost all contact with her family. She spent 2 years in the dark until a submarine fleet arrived and took her. I asked if they had mistreated her, but she pushed me away, annoyed by my dark assumptions. I told her it was hard to imagine anything good happening to a beautiful woman in this apocalypse. She explained that the submarine actually belonged to her father. He was incredibly wealthy and had even given her that company just as a toy to play with. He built the fleet to find her, but arrived to find the Wazi group building destroyed by a rebellion. With nowhere to go, her father became the captain, and they began to wander the seas. She stayed disguised so her beauty wouldn't cause trouble, and now the original crew was dead. Her father had killed them all with a poison meal when I least expected it. Now he plays the part of a kind captain, picking up survivors to atone for his crimes. I paused for a second and asked, "So, are we going to rescue your father?" "My father isn't there," she replied. "He was killed during a negotiation gone wrong." She explained that the new captain kept her around because her father called her the ship's lucky charm. I froze. Did anyone actually believe that? Joaquin just smiled. She pulled out a battered old phone and revealed the truth. She held the ship's self-destruct code. Captains changed, but as long as she could sink the ship, she was the safest person on board. I pulled her into a hug, feeling the weight of everything she'd endured. She told me her father's last wish was to take her wherever she wanted to go. She chose to find me. Finding me had become her only reason to keep living. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I realized I had become her entire world. She wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me, asking me to call her baby. I teased her, telling her to call me husband instead, and she laughed, calling me a dreamer. I took her hand, looked into her eyes, and promised to protect her for the rest of my life. I carried her to the bedroom, but she stopped and pointed at a pile of old dolls in the corner. "What about them?" she asked. "You can't just mistreat your predecessors like that." She pulled my ear playfully, and for a moment, the apocalypse felt a million miles away. Later, as I held her, she asked if I loved her. I told her I didn't know what love was. I liked her, certainly, but the difference between liking and loving was still a mystery to me. I used to dream of marrying a powerful CEO to reach the top, but I never expected it to happen like this. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the room. Another rebellion had begun. The Pope's faction is the strongest, but they don't dare attack the fallen god. I watched the screen as a figure rushed forward and sliced the ropes binding the prisoner. The god of freedom was loose, and his pale face was twisted with greed and terror. "I am free, Wang Tao," he whispered, his eyes like an abyss paralyzing everyone in the room. The Pope arrived, screaming for his men to kill this so-called god before it was too late. But the blades were already raised, and this time, they were aimed at the heart of the temple. Wang Zhe tilted his head back and muttered, "Brother, I'm coming to kill you again." I stared at the monitor in silence until Joachim, curled in my arms, asked who his brother was. I looked down at her and replied, "Your husband, me." She realized it instantly. "So your powers are complete opposites, aren't they?" She looked around at the massive stockpile of supplies I had gathered here. I explained that I shrink things, while he does the exact opposite. "But what did he mean about killing you again?" she asked, her voice trembling. I gave her a small, cold smile and said, "Keep me happy, and maybe I'll tell you." Meanwhile, back at the temple, Wang Zhe was tearing the building apart in a frenzy. He punished his followers, screaming that he would find me even if he had to level the city. One follower offered him a holy sword, but he snapped, "This is a damn cell phone." I watched the message from my little brother pop up on my own screen and laughed. The text read, "My dear big brother, where are you hiding?" I leaned back, decided it was time to start messing with his head. I grabbed Joachim and used the blue and white plastic from a toothbrush to fake a background on the wall. It looked like a cheap, distant landscape, so I had an AI retouch the photo of me hugging her to make it look natural. I sent it to him with a caption, "My dear little Toto, I'm enjoying a sunny beach right now." The lamp above me really did look like the sun, and I taunted him about the sand and bikinis until his veins nearly popped. He was fuming, examining the photo for flaws until he suddenly thought he had discovered something. "Are you on some mountain peak? Don't talk shit, Wang Tao," he messaged back. "I know you're here, and I swear I'll find you and kill you," he threatened, which only made me laugh. I decided to twist the knife. "Oh, Toto, watching your helpless rage is just too much fun." Wang Zhe panicked, spinning around and screaming for his men to destroy every monitor in the room. They found nothing, and as he realized he'd been played again, I asked, "Do you really think you're in control? I can turn your precious freedom into a joke whenever I feel like it." It was a heavy threat, and he immediately assumed I was coming for his food supplies. He ordered his guards to double the security, falling right into my trap. I didn't need to touch his food, I just wanted to exhaust him, so I turned off my phone and went to pick strawberries. Joachim asked how long grapes took to grow, and I explained they hit their peak between the 4th and 5th year. She was glowing with energy, realizing that simple planting and harvesting could actually make a person happy. I teased her about how she used to be too stuck up to notice the world, but looking at her, I knew I wanted to protect this life. On the monitor, Wang Zhe woke up screaming from a nightmare, begging his guards to save him from me. "He wants to hurt me. He wants to shrink me," he gasped, his forehead drenched in sweat while his guards watched in confusion. To cement his power, he began spreading a doctrine that he was a supreme god, while I was the demon sent to ruin the world. Watching that on the monitor, I couldn't help but laugh. 3 years into the apocalypse, and people actually chose to believe his lies. A subordinate rushed in to report that a group of water pirates had surrounded the building. Those idiots thought the recent mutiny was their best chance to strike, but Wang Zhe just walked to the roof with an umbrella and looked down at the rabble. He calmly ordered his men to help him remove a few bricks from the structure. The guards were confused, but they didn't dare question his orders. I watched as they brought the bricks to him, wondering what my brother was planning now. Wang Zhe weighed one in his hand, feeling the texture before walking to the very edge of the roof. He extended his hand and whispered, "Say good night to this world," before dropping the brick and enlarging it 1,000 times. The massive object crushed the pirates with a terrifying boom, instantly turning Wang Zhe into a living god in the eyes of his followers. He had gone completely insane, driven to the extreme by the years of being despised and overlooked. He acted like a paranoid deity, masking his madness with a fake sense of divine compassion while the ground below was soaked in blood. His followers were so desperate for hope that they began calling his residence the land of divine birth. The only person left who knew the truth about his pathetic past was Xiaolingjia, and he summoned her to his private temple. When she trembled and called him my lord, he snapped, grabbing her collar and screaming about the times she used to beat him. He didn't want a servant. He wanted the version of her that lived in his twisted memories, the one who looked down on him. He begged her to lie to him, to hit him, to treat him like the dirt he used to be. But she just wept, repeating that she didn't dare touch a god, which was the final blow to his fractured ego. The rejection of his past self was too much, and Wang Zhe collapsed from the sheer weight of his own rage. By my 4th year in Eden, I thought I had found peace, but my brother was only getting started on his path of total destruction. In the 5th year, he stood in the rain and told his fanatics that God demanded a sacrifice to save the world. Our building stood alone like a tomb, a monument with lights forming a final resting place. I don't have the strength to change this anymore, and honestly, maybe that's for the best. But the future belongs to humanity. I've seen it in the messages of celebration when the sun finally returned. That image of survival after the disaster is the one thing I truly loved. I'll never forget it. We were born to seek the sun, and we will bloom again. Wang Zhe's madness continued, but his lonely island couldn't fill the ocean, only piling up the bones of those who resisted. He had completely lost his mind, while behind him, Xiao Lingjia's eyes flickered with a spark of returning clarity. She whispered, "Will this really save the world?" And he snapped, "Are you questioning your god?" She knelt, terrified, while Wang Zhe smiled as if a great weight had been lifted. He felt a twisted sense of relief. "I am right," he muttered with a hollow gaze, "because I saw the deathly silence of the future." My brother went insane, refusing to accept a reality where humanity could have been saved if we had just tried. I hated his selfishness, locking us away while he had the power to change everything. He did nothing, so I killed him. I'll become the savior he failed to be, even if I have to sacrifice my own life to prove him wrong. By the 9th year, his mountain pierced the clouds, the only place on Earth untouched by the rain. Below, the giants looked like mere dots, their bones buried under layers of granite and earth. It's pure madness, and my heart aches knowing only 4 of us are left in this building. I think I finally found the answer I was so afraid to face. Wang Zhe is nothing but skin and bones now, his voice raspy as he watches Xiao Lingjie take the final step. Xiao Lingjie stepped forward, looking as if she had known her fate for a long time. I'm about to beat this apocalypse, but the 10-year deadline is almost up. In total silence, Xiao Lingjie climbed onto the wall and opened her arms wide. You'll be different from the others, Wang Zhe whispered, the most special giant I've ever made. I stayed in Eden, feeling the earth tremble as I realized he had already lost. Brother, he called out, I know you're still in there. My giants searched the whole world and never found that place in your photo. You lied about the sun. The only place on this planet where you can find the light is right here. He looked out over the massive, desolate landscape. I'm going to change this hopeless future, so stay in your little world with that girl. I saw the photo of your boss hidden in the middle compartment of your wallet. You're the real coward for hiding your feelings, but it doesn't matter anymore. When I'm gone, stay safe in the Taichu Cup until it's time for you two to lead humanity. The 10-year mark arrived, and I stared at Wang Zhe without a hint of surprise. Keep dreaming, I spat, lunging forward to take my revenge. Say goodbye to this world. After my brother's death, everything went dark. When I finally woke up, I was still in the Taichu Cup, inside the Eden building. The year was up, and according to the deal with my brother, it was time to descend. The giants were leaving, marching toward Gixu to die and become nutrients for a new world. The time had finally come, and I climbed up to the rooftop to find it completely empty. Hua Hai, her belly slightly swollen, took my arm and asked what I was waiting for. I looked into the distance and wondered how long it would take our children to explore this massive new Earth. Maybe one day our descendants will deny we ever existed, treating our struggle against the cataclysm as nothing but ancient myths. I know the real Hua Hai died long ago in that starving building, but I fell in love with the person you became. It took me over 6 years to make you love me and accept the burden you carry. Our old civilization was wiped out, but through the child in your womb, humanity will continue.